Hello and welcome to Graceful Connections, presented by Academy for the Soul. I'm your host, Sophie Vidar, and the co-creator of Graceful Connections, together with Christel Hughes, founder of Academy for the Soul, the online school for intuitive arts. Graceful Connections is an adventure of exploration, discovery, healing, liberation, growth, and truthful expression, which is facilitated, amplified, magnified, and blessed really with grace. As graceful connections are woven between you and our expert speakers, your graceful guides into creating heaven on earth. Every time you join Graceful Connections, not only are you held in the orb of grace and receiving an infusion of grace, but also you claim your willingness to create heaven on earth. And indeed, all it takes is your willingness from a pure heart and with pure intentions. And as your willingness is affirmed, it echoes through the universe. And your intentions are strengthened and answered with clarity, inspiration, empowerment, activation. All that you need to make it true, to make it real, in highest service to the divine and highest good of all. And if at any moment a voice within you asks, who am I to create heaven on earth? Let grace answer and remind you, you are a child of the divine. And creating heaven on earth can naturally be your daily joy. So thank you for being with us, bringing your unique vibration, colors, and energetic imprint without which the world would be missing. Thank you for answering yes to the calling of grace and your willingness to create heaven on earth. So let's begin. I invite you to relax. Take a few deep breaths. Breathing out all that does not belong to this moment. Bringing all your attention, all your presence here and now. Remembering your connection to the center, to the heart of the earth. Your connection to the center, to the heart of the universe. So that you are held, both grounded and suspended. You are relaxed and ready and open to receive. And together we set our intention that all the energies that we call in and flow, all that is shared in words and beyond the words, and all our time together serves our highest good, our evolution, and be of service to the highest good of all. Now I'm calling the orb of grace from the heart of the universe. And placing the orb of grace around our group, our gathering, and each and every one of us. That we be held in grace and infused with grace. All along our our time together. Let's take a moment to adjust to the purity and the subtle high frequency of grace, allowing it to gracefully dissolve, realign, harmonize, amplify, magnify, all that needs to be so, in purest alignment with divine will and the divine order of grace. And breathe. Beautiful. Now, within the Orb of Grace, I'm delighted to welcome our expert speaker, multisensory intuitive energy healer, Michelle Holling-Brooks, who invites you to evolve your empathic blueprint for wholeness, deep love, and feeling at home in your body. Michelle Holling-Brooks is an author, speaker, multisensory intuitive energy healer, and spiritual counselor. Her unique approach to the healing and spiritual arts weaves together different modalities, trainings, and soul remembrance that she has gathered from her own healing journey and initiations over 20 years of working full-time as a certified practitioner and teacher in the field of healing. Michelle is naturally wired as a multidimensional healer and oracle channel. She uses her innate wiring to create a bridge between the dimensions for her clients to call forward their true soul remembrance. With her guidance, her clients are able to remember, restore, and embody their own soul's gifts, knowingness, and essences. One of her great passions in life is supporting all beings claim, embody, and rock out their amazing life from their own I am whole state of beingness. She provides her clients with the sacred space to find the hope, the healing, and the growth they have been searching for, igniting their own amazing, beautiful, wise one healer within. It is such a blessing to have you with us today, Michelle. Welcome.
Thank you, Sophie, and thank you to everyone else who's joining us in this beautiful meetup. I love this video format, and I'm very excited to be here, and so I'm excited.
Thank you, and we're excited to be with you. And I must say, to me, Michelle, you really are the living proof that being an empath can be tremendously joyful, and I believe it hasn't always been that way. Maybe at some point it didn't even seem possible at all. So thank you for being here with us to demonstrate what is possible on top of all that you're going to offer today. So everyone, Michelle is going to share her expertise about liberating and evolving your empathic blueprint to the next level. She will also lead you to experience freedom in connection. She will masterfully guide you to allow your whole system to feel the truth of your divine empathic nature. It is a gift, not a burden. So you will certainly delight in the experience of deep connection, openness, and feeling at home in your body being. And also on Friday, October the 27th at 9 a.m. Pacific, we'll gather again with Michelle for an intuitive readings galore live call. She'll answer your question, what belief system is impacting my divine empathic wiring? Now, for the moment, let's dive into our fascinating topic of the empath, empathic wiring. Is it a burden or even a curse? Or what are the potential gifts inherent to being so highly sensitive? I like to open with asking you, Michelle, in order to really know what we're talking about. What is an empath? And why is it so important, such an important part of our soul's blueprint, especially at this moment of evolution that we find ourselves in?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sophie. And thank you for bringing this beautiful orb of grace to be present to help people over this 9 weeks in all the different ways that help and support and optimize and complement each other, right? And really help us get a full picture of what we're working on. I had to kind of giggle when I didn't think of it until I was in meditation this morning with being on week 4. And so the 4, as a numerology and as an archetypal pattern within itself, is that home, right? That structure that brings us into a sense of being held, that there's a way that we can be in the world that is, we're coming off of the 3 energy right before that's very open and absorbing, and the 4 helps us ground that and bring that into stability. And then 4 is also for the heart center, right? That 4th chakra, that beautiful heart center. And the law that governs the heart center is the law of sensing. Our ability to sense, see, feel, hear, and know on all the different levels, both seen and unseen, what is coming forward. And so the synchronicity, like I didn't plan that. I didn't think of it. But then this morning when I was really in that meditation space and thinking what will be of service today, what wants to come in, that was a really big piece that it wanted to start. So just feel into that right now. I just want to invite everybody, because believe it or not, I'm going to have you experience the empath, and then I'm going to tell you what it is. Feel in to that 4 within you, that there is an innate structure, a knowing, an ability to be held, an ability to hold others, an ability to sense, see, feel, hear, and know deeply, to connect to the heart, the 4, and another. And inside that, we know that there has been a whole host, like an ocean, ups and downs of what has happened in that connection, heart to heart, of sensing. Underneath all of that is a beautiful you, a you that has a divine blueprint that is designed to connect in a way that honors you and honors the other versus overriding each other. So an empath, we're all innately wired this way. We have this within us. It's our ability to literally sense, see, feel, hear, and know what another being, with a capital B, because that includes animal beings and plant beings and fish beings and insects and rocks and stars and all the seen and unseen realms of the elementals. And of course, human beings are in there too. So you could be an empath that has a specific pathway. Ultimately, though, our blueprint invites us into all beings and being able to do that and to sense with them so that we can literally feel what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what they're experiencing. Why? So that we can tend to each other. We can connect deeper with each other, and we can connect across the dimensions, right? The things that we just can't see, sense, hear, feel with our 5 physical senses. Our empathic senses just take the exact same things and bring them into the energetics, into the frequencies that exist. Now, here's the difference that most people don't know about empathy, is empathy on its own, at its base level, does not know the difference between you and me. So Miss Sophie, if you are having a rough day and your nervous system is just like all shades of all over the place, and you're just really struggling, my system's going to come next to yours, and it's going to give me a carbon copy of everything that's happening in your system. And I'm going to all of a sudden feel like I just went from one way to another. And what's up with that? Where did that come from? And how did that happen? And the interesting thing about empathy is, in the beginning, when it's running in its rawest forms, there isn't an I in that statement, meaning I don't witness you through my own system. My system witnesses you as if it's you. Does that make sense, Sophie? Do you have any questions about that? Because this is usually
Absolutely.
and
Yeah, it does absolutely make sense. I love how you, it does make sense, but I love the clarity and the awareness that you bring of it, that you bring about it, because I believe that many of us can already relate to that experience of, oh, I was having a wonderful day and then I don't know what happened, nothing happened. Well, I met my friend and I love this friend, but then I was totally down, and apparently nothing happened other than we met. But from what we said, and I'm sorry if I ruined your day, I didn't ruin your day, but so that's, I think it's very important that we can understand why this can happen. And I love how you put it, that the empath within doesn't recognize you and me, doesn't make the difference between you and me. So that's an excellent starting point. Thank you for that.
yeah. Yeah, and so there's no difference, and it's going to run it as if it's me and my system. Now, here's the problem. Once it's in me and it's running in me, and if I don't have the discernment to be able to scan the different levels of me, the survival level, the personal level, and then the soul impersonal cosmic level, then what happens is I treat all that I sense as me. And now I'm stuck because I can't do anything with your energy. It's yours. It belongs to you. So if I don't consciously just like note that, take that information, because that's what that is, just clean, neutral information. This is what Sophie's feeling like, sensing like, and working like, and pass that back to her. Then now it's going to get stuck in my system. And most of us are not even taught, one, how to discern between what is my survival gut instincts that are always scanning. They're always asking, am I safe? Am I safe now? Am I safe now? Am I safe now? And what do I need to do to be safe? We can't cut that out. It's just a part of us. But we layer that on once we step into a different stage of consciousness, then we start to be able to ask, like, is this that I'm feeling mine, or is this yours? Right? And then what is my role in that? And then we get to go even to another level, which is, okay, my personal desires and wants and wishes are this, but maybe my soul is saying, hey, Michelle, I really need you to show up this way, right? And those might be literally 3 different answers. Heck, they might be like 10 different answers, depending on how many people I'm around, right? And so the messy part of why it feels like a curse when our empathetic wiring comes online is it's awfully all shades of entangled with different survival and personal level adaptations that we had to make within our own system to keep ourselves safe, to ask that question. So we blow into our pathways of sensing and seeing way beyond our 5 senses very early on. And most of us, I'm finding really now, that we are born this way. We're born with already having a full-blown empathetic, both 5 senses and into our intuitive senses online at the same time. Not just our gut instincts, but really, truly being able to sense, see, feel, hear, and know. And you might be thinking, well, how is this helpful? Why is our system designed this way? And it's designed this way for, one, survival first, right? If I look like you, if I mimic you, if I sound like you, if I understand what you're feeling, because the other thing the empath does, I forgot this, let me back up 1 second. The other thing the empath does is when I get a carbon copy of you, in my system, your biorhythms, your emotions, your thoughts, your habits, I also get your postures. So I also get your facial expressions. I also get the rhythm of your breath, the way you hold yourself. I get the whole shebang. And my body, through these wonderful little things called mirror neurons, match it. They literally change the way I sound, the way I hold myself, the way I laugh, the way I do everything when we're little is designed to match the person next to us so that they feel seen, felt, and heard. And if they feel seen, felt, and heard, then they want to protect us. So it's a survival system first and foremost, right? Like that's what our empathetic wiring helps us do. From the mirror neurons to our interpersonal neurobiology to our chakra systems that are absorbing information, giving that to us, running it out through the nadis to the rest of us, and literally changing our biorhythms, our posture, and even sometimes if they're really iffy, even to the way we see ourselves, to match the way somebody else sees and senses and hears us, so that we can belong, so that we can be accepted. And this is where it gets a little muddy, right? So can you imagine that as a little system, I have my own sense of who I am. But if that's not honored in the system that I'm in, and instead the lay of the land for the people that are around me is be me, don't be you, then what am I going to start to do with those empathetic pathways? I'm going to start to be a really good chameleon. I'm going to start to just get further and further away from me, my intuitive nature, to say, hey, Michelle, your body needs this, or hey, my body needs to stretch and to move right now, and it's like stuck on something. But then I get all tight because the person next to me is embarrassed about movement. And so all of a sudden, I don't know why, I'm embarrassed about movement. But I wasn't that way 2.5 seconds ago, but I'm that way now.
Yeah.
And you can see how we get layers upon layers upon layers of literal belief systems, protective mechanisms, all these things stirred up in there without even knowing it, just by trying to survive childhood. So I want to pause right there, Sophie. Does that make sense? Do you have any questions?
It does. And one thing, the impression I have, so I was also, before you mentioned the chameleon, I was also perceiving the chameleon effect. But what I'm seeing is that it's even more than the chameleon. It's like a shape-shifting chameleon. It's not only I take your colors, your taste, but I take your shape, and it's like I become you, right, for a period of time, and then I become her, and then I become him. And how does that not drive us crazy? Well, I guess it does at times, or it has driven us crazy many times, probably. Yeah.
We get very lost in there, right? So this is the soup that everyone needs to start at, to start to sort this soup when we start on a healing path or a healing journey or an empowerment journey. It's like that idea. I have this beautiful image of this ocean cuts us off from our true self, right? Because we got to survive first. We have a hierarchy of needs, and self realization and all that other good stuff, that's way up here. And that would be beautiful if we have an environment that fosters that. And if you had one of those, give some gratitude and love to the people in your world. But most of us are a mixed bag, and even the exact opposite, right? So this huge ocean of adaptations, shape-shifting, traumas, pain, disease, letting go of self, abandoning self, because we're trying to survive, starts to cut us off further and further and further away from our true self. And part of reestablishing back to our beautiful empathetic blueprint, so it runs like the gifts that it is, to be able to work multidimensionally with myself, my body being, both seen and unseen, the energetics of my emotional being, my mental being, my spiritual and soul being, to be able to witness and interact with all of those internally within me, let alone another being. That's a huge gift, because the gift of the empath, that when we master and liberate us from that survival level, and we move to the personal level, then we actually finally get to find ourselves again. Hallelujah, right? Step one, if we even get that far, that's worth it. But if we can evolve all the way back, shrinking that ocean down, connecting back into our true self, all of a sudden our true, beautiful, divine blueprint comes online. What these empathetic pathways can do really beautifully well And what they do beautifully well is let us tend to each other, right? Let us make conscious choices that create heaven on earth, because then we have the ability to access the different realms and pull them into this realm, into this body, not going out, not going up, not leaving. It's bringing it here and realizing that the healing power is withheld within us. Because when you can witness another being, think of a being right now. I'd love to invite everyone to imagine something. Think of a being that you've been around where you felt seen, where all the different shape-shifting moments were able to be released. And you could just be you. And you know that their system didn't want anything from you. You didn't have to change to make them feel comfortable. You didn't have to like meet their needs. They were just truly giving you permission to just be you, the beautiful you. The hot mess of the thing and the joyful of the thing, the whole spectrum was welcome in front of them. And that you could be raw, or you could be joyful. You could be whatever your system needed. And you weren't going to be judged, and you weren't going to be shamed. And you could be tended to, and you could give your love freely. It was true consent, not required as an exchange or anything like that. That's the empath that's liberated. We have that ability to offer that just by being, because our system has freed itself up from having to match the other system. And therefore, we're offering to somebody else's system the same freedom. You don't have to match me. You don't have to adapt to me. You get to truly be you, and I get to be me, but yet we can sense and feel and support each other. That's huge, right?
Yes.
And that's what we're going to experience a little bit at the end. I'm going to bring in a little bit more of what we just gave you a little taste of, because I can sure that that healing power of being witnessed, of being seen, and then being heard and invited back into themselves is so healing and so powerful. And it is a necessary step for this evolution of all of us, right?
Yeah, it is huge. And the visual I'm being shown is because you mentioned the ocean. So I'm seeing the ocean, and I'm seeing in this ultimate, let's say, ultimate destination for the empath, the drop in the ocean, knowing herself as being the drop and living as the drop while being in the ocean, and being able to recognize the other drop as another drop and recognize her as being different and beautiful, and oh, you're like this, I'm like that. And that without having the need neither to conform to shapeshift and everything, neither to extract this drop, extract herself from the ocean, which is what so many of us have eventually had to do, to isolate, to separate, to let me just be on my own so that I can live, right? And the drop being able to be the drop while being in the ocean, it is totally huge, and it is a magnificent vision. And if you tell us that it is possible, that's really, really amazing.
Yeah, and we teach what we need to, like, what our healing path is, right? And so just in case some of your viewers maybe aren't familiar with the healing path that I've been on and why this is my specialty,
Yeah.
can I take a few moments and share that with
Yeah,
your viewers?
your experience. Yes.
Yeah. So, like many of you, I was born with this highly sensitive pathways up and running. And it was a very normal part. You know, my mom loves to say the story. She was like, Michelle, I knew from like day one, you were like talking to angels and this, that, and the other, and all that good stuff, you know? And she would leave me alone, and she'd be like, oh, she's doing her thing, and all of that. But when I was 13, I was bit by a mosquito that had encephalitis and viral meningitis within it. And so I ended up getting both viral meningitis and viral encephalitis at the same time. And then you don't know what those diseases are. One makes the brain stem and the brain itself swell out, while the other one makes the lining of the brain swell in. And so two things were pushing on each other, and that made a very unhappy brain for me. I ended up slipping into a coma, and I was in a coma for 7 days. When I woke up, there were some very significant changes that happened to my body being. One, I was paralyzed from the middle of my back down. I can now walk and do all the stuff, but this is the story. And so I couldn't move at all. I was also deaf because of the amount of the swelling and the pressure and the damage that happened to my ears. So I had to, that was a whole thing. I was blind. And not like the blind that you would think like darkness, everything was so white. So when we talk about things being a frequency and a vibration, and that is incredibly intense when you don't have any filters and all you're seeing is the energy. And so it was blowing out my optics. Think of like a lens on a camera that they used to have. You know, if you made the aperture too wide and you didn't have that filter on there, then everything's just white. That's what was happening. So it was incredibly painful, incredibly overwhelming to me. So not only was I paralyzed, deaf, and blind, the other thing that happened, which really was the kicker, is I had zero memory of being a human, of Michelle, of what my life was, of who I was, or even the concept of what anything is. I was totally wiped clean. And so when I woke up, all I knew was the pain and the disorganization in my body, and that I was incredibly not able to communicate with anything around me. But the biggest thing that I realized as I worked my way through understanding what that was like, those first few months where I was in the hospital and just trying to finish cleaning up from that, and I was still deaf and blind and paralyzed and no Michelle, is that I realized that I had zero filters on me. My empathetic pathways were blown all the way out to the nth degree. There was no consciousness to stop any of them. So I didn't know I was a human. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't even like labels, all these labels that, you know, we pick up as little kiddos, all these social norms that we pick up as little kiddos. They didn't mean anything to me. I didn't know the difference between me and the beings around me, whether they were inanimate or animated. To me, it was all the same thing. I was that whole entire hospital, and that whole entire hospital was me. And that was incredibly overwhelming. It was incredibly painful. I got really good at starting to track the different, what I called shadows, because humans were so dense, they looked a little bit darker than all the white that was around me. And so I started to be able to track them, and I started to be able to understand them, and I started to be able to be like, okay, well, this part of me does this. What I didn't realize is what I was tracking were the nurses and the doctors and all these other things. But there were three energies that were very difficult for me and actually repelled me. And those three energies, I always felt every time they were around me, like something wanted something from me. They were upset, they were erratic, they weren't predictable like these other shadows were. I could feel like just that they wanted something, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know how to give it to them because I didn't even know what I was, right? Those three energies ended up being my mom, my dad, and my sister. Right. And so what I was feeling was their emotions, right? All of their fears, all of their worries, all of their desires for me to do something, to be something, to remember them. You know, now as a mom, I'm like, oh my gosh, how hard must that have been for them, right? But for that 13-year-old little body that didn't understand, I just knew that people moved me around. I couldn't fight. I just knew that I couldn't tell them anything. I couldn't ask for anything. I couldn't meet any of my needs. And it was just all pain. It was all overwhelmed. And it was just either the ones that just showed up and did their thing, I could deal with. But the ones that wanted something from me, the ones that were afraid, the ones that were fearful, those energies were so incredibly harmful to me because I didn't know what to do with them, right? So
Yeah.
fast forward to when I left the hospital, that was a whole nother trauma because the rhythms that I had synced myself to and began to be aware of, even though there were so many moving parts within that hospital, people coming and going and all that good stuff, I got put back into a space I didn't know, right? And that was my home. But to me, that home felt incredibly crushing. Well, it was because their weight of those needs of what they wanted from me and what they were fearful of that would never come back. You know, they had a daughter that was running, doing, and everything else like that, and now she's sitting in a wheelchair and she can't sit up. If you push on her, she's gonna fall over, right? She can't talk. She can't communicate. She can't see, and all she is in pain. So I was swimming in a soup of beings that felt, to me, that 13-year-old would say incredibly abusive. Even though they were trying to meet my needs, it just felt completely not, because they just moved me when they wanted to move me. They did what they wanted to do when they wanted to do. And as I started to get labeling back and working with different things, I realized that I didn't have the right to say yes, no, or maybe. They just did what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it and how they wanted to do it. And I didn't have the ability to communicate what that is. After years of working with other people, my system is just very literal, but everybody else's system has their own version of this. How they have lost their ability to see what they want to see, to hear what their heart says for them to hear, for them to speak and share when they have a yes, no, or a maybe, right? To identify and make sense of things the way that makes sense to them. My story is just literal, but every single one of you have your own version of how that happened to you, right? On different levels. And how then do you reclaim that? Because the problem is, I had very weird awareness then. Once I started to get my sight back, once I started to get the use of my legs back through a beautiful being named Schedule A horse. That's why horses are such a big deal for me. But as I started to get labels to make sense of this human thing, my empathetic nature didn't shift. So I was a parrot. I was talking just because this is what I heard. And I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't know what the words meant. And about a year after I woke up from that coma, I was at a friend's house and we were sitting there and we were eating cereal. We had had a sleepover and the cat threw up, her cat threw up. And I thought the mom say out loud, because at this point I didn't know that what I was doing was different, you know? And so I thought I heard the mom say, "Oh, why'd the cat throw up?" The cat answered, "I'm worried about the divorce. I don't know what home I'm going to be in." So little me, 1 year after that coma, just parroted that. Didn't understand what any of those words meant. And I just said, "She's worried about the divorce. She doesn't know what home she's going to live in." And the mom dropped the thing that she was using. The dad put the thing down. They hadn't said anything about it. My friend looked at me, jabbed me in the thing, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, what did you just say?" And here I am just trying to eat my Cheerios. And I was like, "What did I just say? What's wrong?" and the onslaught then, this is what I want everyone to track. The onslaught of the mom's emotional being going, right? The onslaught of the dad's emotional being like, what the heck, and mental being and all those parts. The poor cat ran because he felt what I felt, but I couldn't run because I couldn't move that. My friend was mad at me and I had no idea why. And what I had done was parrot things that I didn't realize people could hear, right? I thought it was all auditory up to that point. Well, that was a moment I realized, oh snap, this parts that I can hear, most people can't hear. That happens to each and every one of us as a little kid. So now think of a time when you might have been little and you said something that you heard just with a different part of you And the onslaught that came from hearing that. Where did you hear that? How did you know that? That isn't true. You know, their mental being pushing back, right? And so little old me didn't know the difference. Little old you guys at different levels of your life don't know the difference either. And you get the onslaught back, and then you think, oh, I did something wrong. And we start to cut off that channel, but we're just consciously cutting it off. Our body is still doing it, right? So our body's still getting all that information, but now we have a mental being overriding that and cutting us off from the healing power that cat was trying to bring forward, right? I'm worried. I need to be tended to. I need something here, right? The mom needed something. She obviously was struggling. The dad was struggling. And my poor friend, her body knew something was wrong. She didn't know something was wrong from a mental standpoint, right? So that's just a really quick example of how these pathways get shut down, because at some point in our life, somebody comes back at us and says, you're feeling too much. That's not your problem, but you can feel it. That's real, right?
Yeah.
And because it gets shut down, we don't learn how to start to work with it consciously, and it all goes subconscious. And that's a scary place to be, right? Do you have any questions on that one, Miss Sophie?
Not question. I have a comment that I think probably for many, it may have been, well, I guess there are so many scenarios, probably as many as persons listening and watching today, but like it's your imagination, you're making things up, you're tripping yourself. I know I got this, like you're tripping, I still get this a lot. You're tripping yourself, right? Which for a long time I took it over, and I believed that I was tripping myself until I undid this, right? So it takes many different forms and ways of being experienced. And yes, as you said, you had the most literal, probably the most literal experience, and the most visceral and the most extreme, probably, of all of us who are together. So before we go on, I want to thank you for having gone through this ordeal, because it really sounds like an ordeal, but having had that, your soul pushed you through, making sense of it and bringing the sense, and I mean sense of the understanding, but also bringing your senses back, and bringing you to the beautiful place where you are now, where you can decode all of this for all of us, make it make sense, and be there to support. And so really, thank you so much for having had this courage and this determination and this masterful ability to get to the other side of this whole experience. That's really something. So let me, unless there's anything else that you want, that is important for you to share about your journey. I'm sure that there are so many episodes and anecdotes and stories, but unless there's more that you want to share, I want to add a specific question. So let me ask first, is there anything you want to share to the story?
I think that it's so fast forward a little bit. I started to realize that what I could sense, what I could hear, what I could see, because I was blind for 2 years, but I moved around and I started to be able to work, and I was deaf for 2 years too. What I was using was my energetic senses. And so I was seeing your energy as a being, not necessarily you. That was a whole trip. When I actually started to see the way everybody else saw, I thought I was going crazy, but really it was the flip side, like the 5 senses coming back online. But it overwhelmed me, because as I started shutting it down, like consciously being like, Michelle, you got to be normal. Like, you got to like get this together, or you're not going to be able to survive. I just shoved it into a corner, but it was still doing its thing. Everybody's system does this, whether we have conscious awareness with that or not. And at 23, it just became too much. It really did. I was like, that's it. This is too overwhelming. I can't do this. I can't bridge the gap between what my reality is and what this, like, what I considered was a torture chamber of Earth. You know, I was like, this is so dense, so horrific. People's souls are trying to get their attention. Their heart beings like, hey, and their mental beings like bashing it down, and like they're conforming. They're saying yes when they want to say no. They're saying no when they want to say yes. And I was like, what is happening here? Because this is too much. And so I was like, that's it. I just want the pain to stop, right? And I had one of those moments, and I was like, I don't need to blow this popsicle stand, right? Took a handful of pills. My beautiful dog Baron licked into my mouth as I had passed out, and triggered a vomit response. And when I woke up, one, I was pissed because I was like, well, that didn't work. And two, I looked at Baron, and he just like basically screamed at me, why are you hurting yourself? Why do you not see the beautiful soul that you are? And I know animal beings don't lie. And so I was just like, oh, he just said I was a beautiful soul. And I was like, I don't see that. And so he was like, I need you to find her. I need you to love her the way that I love her. And I stood up, I went into the mirror, and I was like picking puke out of my hair, And I looked into the mirror, and I was like, okay, she's here. She's here somewhere. I've lost her, And I started to see again with my energy eyes. And I started to see the little hints of that golden essence starting to come forward. And as I got in the shower, I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I don't have a clue how to find her again. I don't have a clue how to like her, because I viewed that version of me, that completely raw, open version, was a huge source of my pain, right? And so I didn't really even want to go find this thing, Michelle. And in fact, if you called me Michelle early on in my life, I really didn't like it. And if you said remember to me, oh my gosh, that was like a 4-letter word, you better run. Like it was not a good thing. And as I was washing the puke out of my hair and visualizing back what Baron had showed me, I was like, she's there. I can see this in other people. I have to find it in myself. So he's really who launched me on the journey of healing all of this, right? He was my first like teacher that really was like, okay, Michelle, let's go figure this out. And to work with that. And so what I hope I bring to clients now is the fruits of those labors, right? Of that journey of being completely cut off, trying to take my little drop out of that ocean altogether, to being like, no, I got to figure out a way to get in this ocean, right? And not just be in the ocean, like thrive and live and dance and play and connect and work and support the healing of others, right?
Yeah.
That's what we can do with this.
Wow, yeah. Well, thank you, Bear. He played a very huge part in your journey that benefits all of us. And I think so many can relate to some degree to what you said, that I just want this pain to stop. And I believe that, well, for all who have had those moments, it can have taken the way we answered it can have taken many forms similar to yours, or turning to addiction, or turning to all sorts of coping mechanisms, right? So thank you for being so true and authentic and vulnerable. Well, being so true, I guess that's how you come. You can only, as I'm saying it, I'm hearing, well, you can only come true. You can only come as who you are, right? So that's absolutely, it is very liberating, actually.
It is. So yeah, any questions?
Yeah, the question, let's get a bit technical. So now that we know, we have an absolute expert in the empath and everything empath. So can you explain the difference between an empathic person's wiring and their nervous system? Difference, commonalities, overlaps. What is going on there?
Yeah. So what's going on with the person who's accessing consciously these empaths, or on some level, from a survival level or something like that, is we are fine-tuned to scan and absorb the world around us. We're fine-tuned with that. Our interpersonal neurobiology and pathways are like super highways, or like the super towers, right? So sometimes, some people, when I feel into them, they've got just like the regular schmegular, antenna going on. And it's beautiful and it's amazing and it's working for them. But other people I tap into, and it's like whoosh, they are the supercomputers. Like they can process large amounts of information, they can absorb it, but what the is what the empath, when you get up to being able to be a liberated empath, is you're able to pick and choose what you absorb. So instead of completely rewiring you and shape-shifting you every time, it stays in the information zone, right? It gives me insights and awareness and ahas and what's up with that. And I can even get the felt sense, because I still run very visceral, right? So I still have a very strong clairsentience part of me, but it doesn't override me, right? In the beginning, all of our empathic wiring is literally mirroring. It's overriding ourselves. It's absorbing people's felt sensations, it's absorbing their thoughts, it's absorbing their emotional being, it's absorbing their soul. And so it gets really confusing in here. What is mine? Because you have like 20 million different energies, signatures, all jockeying for space in your system. And if you have any trauma pathways on top of that, that say you better match the people around you if you want to be safe, like what happened with me with the cat, I was like, whoa, that check, never again, don't do that one again. But when we have those, then what happens is this just goes into the background versus conscious. So what the empath's blueprint looks like is a massive sponge that just sucks up the information and doesn't then know how to wring itself out. It doesn't know how to clean the water out. So it's like the muddy water inside like if you've ever cleaned a car or a surface and you've got a sponge, if you don't rinse it and you just keep cleaning with that same sponge, it gets so bad that you're just leaving streaks all over the place. That's what happens to us as an empath when we're running all tangled up with the other things.
Right. Yeah.
And so the pathways are the same. We're just using them stronger. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. So what's the role of the nervous system in this?
The nervous system's main job is to have us connect, that interpersonalness, to know and see and tend to each other. So our nervous system, the vagal nerve, I don't know if you've heard of that vagal nerve, is Stephen Porges, who started polyvagal theory. He was able to really distinguish and realize that this vagal nerve has us constantly scanning for cues of safety, constantly scanning for whose nervous system can protect me. And once we find that, subconsciously, our nervous system says, match it. Become that, do it. So that nervous system of whoever's the strongest, whatever that means, that can keep me safe, I'm going to try to engage. And I'm going to try to get them to seek me, and I'm going to try to seek them. And so our nervous system is hardwired this way. Part of evolving the empath is taking this wiring and turning it off. Taking that thing and saying, okay, I'm not going to seek cues of safety from the physical beings around me. Instead, I'm going to unhook and unplug. If you can imagine that, like there's like this little thing that says, this is how you find your safety. And I'm going to unplug from that. And I'm going to plug into my own soul and to my wise one team, as I call it. that guidance, that insight, that knowing that I'm going to gain from that soul and from my Wise One team, that's going to be my safety. So instead of syncing to outside people, I'm now syncing to who? Me.
Yeah, wow. And you know, as you describe that, I sense I have like massive chills in my whole body that when I ask like what are these chills about, they give me a perception of the sense of safety. This is the true safety. When I plug this plug into my own soul and into my Wise One team, that's true safety. It's not fake safety. It's not coping mechanism safety. It doesn't require the hypervigilance, which is very stressful, exhausting, and kind of nuts as well. But I really get the sense of it's kind of pure safety, safety that is pure. That's what I'm picking up.
And it has within it appropriate levels. So I still want my system to have its gut level responses. If there's a out of control car coming down the street and my Michelle brain doesn't consciously know it, but my body can scan that, I want it to move me to the side. I don't want it to stop and be like, hey, Michelle, do you want to move to the side? So what it does is it plugs us into true optimal choice and then also optimal operating between my survival, my personal, and my soul, versus it coming from the outside, which is what am I syncing to? 9 times out of 10, when it comes from the outside, what I'm syncing to for safety is all the shadow parts and protective mechanisms of the other being, not their soul, not who they truly be. Right? So what I'm syncing to is shadow upon shadow upon shadow upon trauma, upon protective mechanisms, upon everything else like that. And I have to be hyper vigilant in that world. There is no like transparency in that world because nothing matches. When I unplug and say, so sorry, my bad, this now belongs to me, then I can start to be with other beings without my nervous system hijacking myself, seeking safety, because that first level tier which says am I safe, it's going to say if I have a question, I'm going to ask me, I'm going to ask my full self, right, how to support that. So I'll even get guidance on what resources internally within me, and I'll get guidance on how to work with outside resources like with you or with me or another practitioner, right? You'll get that insight instead of from a place of scarcity and fear and comparison and like, oh, I must. Instead, it's coming from a place of, this is the step that's going to help you. This is what's going to help to bring you forward. It's a completely different doorway. And once you start to feel it, it is the whole body chills, right? Because it's a doorway of stability. It's a doorway of wholeness versus the doorway of separation, right?
Yeah, of separation and so many toxic behaviors, coping mechanisms, safety mechanism, as you were describing earlier on about the nervous system attempting to plug into the person who will give me safety, who is usually the loudest or the strongest. Well, for many empaths, it has turned out to be a person who turns out to be an abuser, a narcissist, a bully, and ending up in these totally toxic relationships, right? So there's also this whole part of the picture that as we reorganize, I love how you've talked about this optimal organization organization and use of resources of where and how and for what purpose do we plug in and plug to the soul and plug to our Wise One team, but also where and how and for what purpose do we plug out, and the optimal organization of that. That's really masterful. Thank you for bringing that forth. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So from that nervous system, go ahead.
No, I'm just amazed by what you're bringing. So keep on bringing it.
So from that nervous system, again, we have an evolved blueprint that we're trying to, I like to say, and just kind of feel into this one, Sophie. I like to say that when I was sitting, because I hit this like place, I was like, this is a horrible system. Because remember, all of my like preconceived of like what you say and what you don't say when you're chatting with spirit, all that's gone. And so I was just a very raw, communicative being. And I was sitting in a meditation and I was like, this system, once I started understanding the neurobiology of it and the trauma therapy and like the other stuff, I was like, who made this system? What's the problem? Like, can I put a suggestion in the suggestion box? And what I heard back is that what we're dealing with right now is the de-evolved human. Like, we are trying to re-evolve ourselves. Like, we were not supposed to get this far off course. Like, our blueprint, our true blueprint, and just feel in, don't take my word for it. Just really feel into your system right now and see, does that ring true to you? That it's not about trying to reestablish our worth or to evolve our way into our worth. It's about just remembering the truth of who we truly be. It's about giving ourselves permission to reclaim and reestablish what is already inherently there. It's just been cut off, right? And so I love the idea of what you brought forward with this orb of grace and about creating heaven on earth, because it is about reclaiming this birthright that is within all of us, right? Which is to not be overriding each other, to not be lost in dominance and control, to not be lost in shadow tribalism, like to liberate ourselves from these de-evolved ways of we just kept plugging into the wrong thing and be like, oh, we're going to plug into the right thing, right? And bringing that forward. And so I think this work is so important, however you decide to take it on, because this is what's going to allow us to not only liberate our own selves during our lifetime, but offer that remembrance just by walking down the street. We don't even have to open our mouth. Our frequency will do it, right? I love walking into a room and just sitting down in the spot, and then I watch. Like, who starts getting up to move closer to my field? And then also who's like, whoa, way too much freedom, and who gets up and moves away, right? And it's just always really interesting. I don't have to say or do anything, but my field itself now gives permission to other people's field to remember this truth as well. Right? And that's what an evolved nervous system can do. We can take the same rules, but now use them as invitations versus overriding.
Right. Yeah. And so what I'm hearing in what you're saying is that those of us who experience themselves as empaths are actually the way showers and like the leaders of this re-evolving from the devolved version of the human into the natural, divinely designed version, right? So we are the way showers, the trendsetters. Is that correct?
Yes. But we don't want to like get too bogged down along the way. So part of it is really then, okay, can we consciously begin to work with this part of us, right? How, like, okay, Michelle, you're saying my nervous system is just going to override me no matter what. How do I get it to not do that? Okay, Michelle, like I feel other people, because what happens is it gets intertwined with trauma responses. So, for example, let's say you had a family member that always came home from work angry and frustrated, and always maybe either from substances or just the bog of like feeling like they can't catch up or do something. And so your system starts to know from a survival standpoint, am I safe? Like, okay, I need to start to track them. The sooner I can get a read on what their emotional and mental state is, the better I can adjust to either get out of Dodge, right? And we always try to run and hide first, or to like get myself ready to like push back. If that's not a good idea, then I'm going to start to fold or freeze. I'm going to start to make myself what I think they need to do it. And if I wait until I literally see them to come up with that plan, that might be too late. So now I'm going to start to track them. And in the beginning, my system starts to just track them when they pull up in the driveway. Okay? And I can already sense. And so my system might be getting anxious, or it might be getting calm based off of what it's sensing from the other being, right? Then it realizes, wow, that still doesn't give me enough time. Maybe I need to get from downstairs to upstairs. Maybe I need to go to my friend Johnny's house down the street. So now I'm going to track them all the way down when they're leaving their job. I'm going to tune into them, and I'm going to pluck a little string, and basically, like, I love cell phones now because everybody can understand that I'm like getting a little hit on what's happening to them, you know, but energetically doing that. So now I've blown out all of my clear senses to track a person from very far away. And I've also ensnared that empathetic wiring with a trauma response, which is fold or people please or run or hide or brace myself for a fight. And so now they're getting all shades of intertwined. And now I've got people pleasing parts on top of it. Now I've got fearful parts on top of it. Now I've got, you know, shadow caretakers on top of it. If I can meet them at the door with everything they need, there's and I can answer their need before it even comes out of their mouth. Now they're calming down. I'm knocking the edge off of them, right? So we start to use, from a survival level, all of these beautiful empathetic pathways, which are designed to help us sense, see, hear, and know what I'm feeling and what you're feeling from a place of like choice. Now we're taking choice out and we're running just off of survival, right?
Right.
And so that's one of the biggest ways they get ensnared. And then the other one is, if I take a little bit of your fear or your emotion, and this is all subconscious, and that's why it's not like we decide to do this. These are usually little bodies that figure this out. And they say, okay, I'm going to absorb your fear and I'm going to knock the edge off your field. I'm going to absorb your anxiety and I'm going to knock the edge off your field. If I just keep getting you a little bit more buoyant, so their head comes up a little bit, they can tend to me without the fear or anxiety or anger or whatever it is we're absorbing, right? But now I've got that person's karma, their energy, their information, their messengers, because emotions are messengers that something's wrong, you know, or it's something that we want to move towards or something we want to move away. If we intercept the mail and take it and put it in our system, we can't do anything with it. We can't heal it. We can't clear it. We can't do anything because it's not our mail, right? It belongs to somebody else. So why don't we just go ahead and give it back? Because we think it's going to harm us. We think it's going to, like, if they get this piece of mail even 20 years later, right, that they're going to feel that, because they will, and then they're going to get mad and they're going to come back at us because it's a little version of us who says, hey, you can't change this. This is what we did. This is why we did it. And you can't make us undo it. Because it's scared and it's trying to help us survive. So one of the biggest tasks of evolving this empath is finding those rules in our system and then helping them heal, helping tend to those little ones of us that are lost and ensnared in that, and relieving that burden from our system, right? Helping it truly clear. And part of it is return to sender. A massive return to sender of all the mail that we've absorbed over the years that we don't even know that we were doing, right? And then making a new rule and a new program that says, I'm not going to shoplift anybody's mail. I'm not going to do all those things. And that is scary to our system because it says, if you stop doing that, if you stop how many of you can recognize this one? Oh my gosh, I feel so much better when I'm around you. I don't know why, but I feel better. They leave sparkly and clean. You leave with like a pain in your back, a thing in your shoulder, like 60 million different things wrong with you. And you're like, what just hit me like a bus? But now that becomes your worth, right?
Yeah.
And so you're willing somewhat to get run over by a bus, but you don't know how to do it a different way. And you also don't know if you really want to do it a different way, because will that person stay? And so we really have to tenderly, lovingly, compassionately work with those trauma responses in addition to survival responses. So those are the two big things that are pathways in addition to the nervous system.
Wow. Yeah. Whew. Okay. So finding the rules, finding and upgrading the rules that we used as coping mechanisms as a child, right? Is that correct? Finding and yeah, radically upgrading them, right? Transforming them. Are there other, and we can see how that's a big deal. That's quite a challenge. Are there other major challenges that you see people who have a highly sensitive empathic pathway can be struggling with when they try to work with this part of them in a healthy way?
Yeah, it's the part of it is the fallout of years of running the other way, right? And so there is a real physical toll that happens when we energetically absorb somebody else's mail, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Like this is where there's tons of usually chronic digestive issues going on in our gut. Because we're nervous. Now we have our own PTSD trauma response to being around other people. We just know we get hijacked. We just know we get overwhelmed. We just know that it feels like we've got 5 different personalities going on in this. We're like, what the heck? I got on the Zoom call and I got off and I'm like, oh, you know? And then we have this other layer that I think is the hidden piece, is to reestablish our worth. Because a lot of shame comes in with, oh, you're too sensitive, oh, you're too this, oh, you're too whatever, like, and we start to think the problem is us, right? Like we think it's really us, not just that there's an adaptation within us. And so learning to distinguish and to separate that judgment, that harsh inner critic, which is why that's my free gift for everyone. If you sign up for the series, was just to take on the inner critic right off the bat. Is that's a huge piece, because our worth has been stripped away from us. And so another third really big stumbling block when we start to do this work and we start to try to do that is we'll have parts of us that will really challenge that and say, if you heal this, if you start operating different, you will basically be shunned from your tribe and nobody will like you. And that sounds silly to say in a big picture, but remember, these are really young parts of us. And if we got shunned, that used to be the worst thing that could happen in a society, right? Like because we are beings of connection. That's what this empathetic, beautiful nature is. It's trying to connect us. And if we feel like that connection is going to be taken away, we'd rather stay with a connection that's harmful than have no connection. And so that's another big stumbling block. And I talk about this one really directly in the course as well, to really help people start to reclaim it's okay to have what I call a middle column, a personal you. And as somebody who ran without a middle column, it was a disaster. Like, anybody could tell me anything. And I was like, okay, because I didn't know. I had no me. I had no Michelle. I had no sense of self. I had no of my own boundaries or anything else like that. So literally figuring out how to put me in my life is a huge piece. And what I've found as I'm working with other people, again, it might not be literal, but it's the same thing. They've lost them. And they only know themselves through the work they do for others. And part of what the big evolving the empath is reclaiming you, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And
Yeah.
that's huge, but it's also
That
in a
is
weird
huge.
way scary, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But you make it so much less scary. You are so masterful and such an expert from your own experience that, well, you took it to the extreme. We can certainly say that. But because of that, and thanks to that, you come with such a degree of expertise and of mastery of the whole empathic thing. So tell us your secret. How did you heal your own empathic pathways, and how do you heal those of the people you work with, your clients?
Yes, thank you for that question. It's a process. It's not a one and done. Well, I mean, as I say that, I'm like, well, Michelle, you don't know that. So most of the most of the time, it's a process. And if I had to guess, everybody who's listening to this has already started this process. They're already on this journey. They're already maybe well on this journey, and they're just getting stuck in some little eddies here and there, or parts of their system are just like, oh, we're so close to really unplugging. We're just nervous, and we might need a help to kind of like reorganize that. So the best way that I have found, and the way that I did with myself, is this journey of first understanding and relieving shame. So really allowing ourselves to really kind of digest what I gave you in quick little snippets about wired to do this surface level thing first, right? We're wired to do the survival thing first. And so once we can acknowledge that and honor that in our system, it calms down and it says, okay, so you got that in the back of your mind that we want you to survive. Yeah, system, I got that. I know that we're not just unplugging and willy-nilly being, floating off into the ethers. We're bringing a structure, right? That home into the system. And so that's step one, is understanding, because we got to bring the mind with us. If we don't bring the mind, it's going to fight us, and it's going to undo all the rewiring that you do. So once we can befriend the mind and get it to understand that we're not trying to just throw ourselves off an energetic cliff somewhere and shun ourselves, then it steps back. And then our heart can step forward. And so the second step of supporting ourselves in that is then looking and having the discernment. So bringing discernment into our system of learning how to see the survival level of us, to see the personal level of us. That's the hardest one, believe it or not. And then seeing the soul level of us. Because the problem that happens, if we don't have a middle column, we become all the trauma adaptations from that first survival level of us, we put on the unseen realms. And so we become the same shapeshifter to all of the energetic unseen beings, just like we do to human beings. We don't want to do that. That's a bad idea. We don't want to just be a channel that's plugging into anything and everything can plug into us. That's not a good idea, right? And so having this strong self, an organized, energetic system that believes it has the right to have boundaries, that knows that I'm in an incarnation that says, I am me and you are you. When I woke up, I didn't remember that truth. So if anything happened to you, it happened to me. That's too porous for this world. So we are also being asked to work with this beautiful soul blueprint of this world, which is I am me and you are you. And how can we choose to support each other instead of being forced to support each other? Can we make this choice to connect, to hear, to sense, to love, to laugh, to share, to tend to each other from a place of choice? I don't have a personal me. I can't make that choice. So that's a huge piece that I realized a few years in, that I was like, oh, wow. I was teaching people how to connect to their empathetic natures, but they didn't have a self. So therefore, they were getting burnt out, abused when they were trying to work with people, like, because they were absorbing all this stuff. Their system didn't know that it could be itself. So that's a huge key that I eventually was like, "Whoa, I got to put this in." So now it's in everything that I teach. Like, how do we reclaim ourselves so that when I tap into either one of those, the I don't know what you want to call this reality, the Earth School or the unseen realm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Either one that I tap into, I am able to be me, right? And honoring that and loving that, because true empathy comes with compassion. And true compassion says that I am not going to force anything to override anything, right? I'm going to have compassion for it. I'm going to have love. I'm going to have honor for myself and for the other. And that's a whole different ball of wax, right? So those are the key tidbits of how to work with it. You got to understand it a little bit, just enough, so that your mental body steps back and says, okay, I trust you. Then you got to establish a me, and then open it back up to your soul blueprint, and it comes in a new way. Is that good?
Wow. Yeah, I love it. I love the clarity that you bring to this, because I mean, we can, as you said, it doesn't happen in the snap of fingers, even though let's agree that if it can, we welcome that it let it happen. If somebody's ready, let it happen. Yes. And miracles, divine intervention, all these things happen, so let's welcome this. But usually it's a journey, and I love how the clarity that you bring to the different phases of this journey, and how hearing it totally feels right, and it makes sense, right? And as you said, as it makes sense, it allows the mind to relax and to say yes, and to be ready to go with it. I just love it. So with that, we're just at this point where, well, you have created a wonderful offering, bringing together all your own personal amazing journey, all that you have gone through, all that you have figured out, cracked the code, all your expertise, mastery, right? And you have created this Evolving the Empath, reclaiming and rewiring your nervous system. So we'd love to hear all about it. Now, for everyone to follow, you can go to gracefulconnections.com/Michelle2, or just simply scroll down the page to discover Michelle's special offer. Michelle, please reveal what you have created for our audience.
Yes, thank you, Sophie. I love this program. It is one of my all-time favorite ones to bring forward and offer for a couple of reasons. One is once you are in the course, you have access to it for as long as I keep that website up and running. So you can keep coming back to it and to work with it and to evolve with it. And it can meet you in all the different spaces of wherever you're at. So it takes the pressure off of like, oh my God, I got to get it now, and I got to work with it now. I also realize that I love offering this live, because I want to be there to help answer questions, to be in that dialogue, to help you feel that space, sometimes give you that bird's eye of that, here's the read that your team is giving me. So, because you're in the inner workings of why you did what you did in your system, right? When you're involving these pathways, you are taking on why you wired yourself the way you did. And there's exquisite reasons. And I always want to honor that. And so that's step one. I honor that your system did whatever it did because that was what was best. And I don't question it and I don't override it. But I know that it's not going to keep serving us, right? And so it's designed to have 3 different modules based off of the 3 stages that I just gave you, Ms. Sophie. And so it's a combination of an online course with video teachings and a workbook and guided journeys, MP3 meditations to help you implement what I give you through the wisdom teachings. So again, it's that beautiful sandwich. I got to give you enough to get your mental body to step back. Then we bring the heart into sensing, feeling, seeing, finding, practicing what you learn. And then we can open up to then the soul bringing and replacing it with the new plug. Here it is. So in the first module, we go through just that. We work with like, what is an empath? What is your empath? We help set you up with an empathic guide that's through a meditation and help you start to see how your empathic wiring is currently running. Now it switches all day long, but the big overarching thing. And so that's in that first module. You're going to get the ability to really help relieve your system of shame, relieve it of blame, and help start to unburden and return to sender. That's a big part of the first one, is we're going to take as much extra stuff in there that doesn't belong out as we can, because I don't like to sift through laundry if I don't have to. We want to, the trash, we want to just gone out of the thing. The second module is going to bring you into really working with the survival level of you, reclaiming, rewiring, starting to learn how to identify when you're in a survival response and what to do to get out of it. And to not only get out of it, to release it and unburden it from your system so it doesn't keep reverberating itself like a feedback loop that you're like, why am I doing this again in Groundhog Day? So I give you those tools in that one. And we also look at that trauma one as well, right? And we start to be able to work on as well, calling in and cultivating rewiring to the soul level of you back in. So it's all three levels that you get to work on. And again, you have access to this course. So even though we're going through it with the live calls, it's there to meet you whenever. So it's a beautiful healing tool in your toolbox that you can mix and match with whatever you want to do and whatever other things. I love being an adjunct guide, like coming in and being like, hey, put this in your back pocket, right? And so that's in module 2. And again, there's a live call where you can ask questions. You can share about the meditations that I had you do or the reflection exercises. And I can also kind of tune in and see what's working and what's not. And the third module is super fun. I love the third module is I help give you tools and tricks of the trade of how to keep this going as far as physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And we bring in working with elementals and crystals and Eden energy medicine to help this like really integrate from not just an energetic, but truly reorganization of your energetic structure all the way down into the cellular structure, right? So starting to clear out then some of those chronic fatigue, some of those chronic digestion issues, autoimmune issues, they all almost have a root in one of these things that we're talking about. So it really helps take that on too. And again, there's a live call that goes with that. So that's the bulk of the package, is going through this healing course. And I go with you so you can not just be, think that being in those live calls is super helpful because you also have a container to hold you in and be held in, that you can feel like you can relax a little bit then, right? And get what you want from that. So that's the bulk of it. Do you want me to share anything else about that, Ms. Sophie?
No, that's great. I love how you're mixing, as you said, it's a mix, right? Mixing the modules, the sacred wisdom teaching modules with the live course. The live course, they're workshops on their own, right? They are like
They are.
So I love how this goes together. That it feels very elegant, but it's not only a matter of elegance. It really serves our needs in a very perfect way. So that's the core of the program. What else is there?
Yeah, so there is also in there, and when I got this invitation and we were thinking of like, what would be the beautiful offering? I heard in there, like the empath one would be helpful because this is also holiday time. We're going into that final part of the year where, let's be real, the source of almost all of our adaptations is what we're going to be asked to work with either directly or memory-wise in the next couple months. And so it felt really helpful to give you this container that you can have to help you like one, see all of that, and two, start to shift it, so free you up so that you can be in those connections in a healthier, happier way. So that's just a little side note that really wanted to come in right there.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
The bonuses, yeah, that I curated to include with this package really help us do that. They're designed to help kind of be like that stabilizer when we find ourselves being overwhelmed empathically from a survival or a trauma or whatever level is happening to us. So one of them is a oh goodness, help me out, Sophie. A
I
shamanic.
have a pre-workshop.
Oh yeah, the pre-workshop one. I was going to do the fire ceremony, but yeah, we can do the pre-workshop ones, which are available to you as soon as we get in there. Because I drip the course to keep your mental body from jumping ahead. Because again, there's a reason how I make the layer cake.
Yeah.
So I drip the course module by module so that your mental body can't do any weird self-sabotaging thing. But the pre-workshop ones are all available to you in there. So there's the 5 top tips of how to work with deep healing and how to support your physical body with that integration and that detoxing and then that rewiring. So that's in there, and my clients love it. They're like, holy cow, Michelle, these are great tips. I wish I knew this 10 years ago. So that's in there to help us there. Art of the U-Turn, which is a beautiful teaching that came from Mary O'Malley. She's a wonderful spiritual teacher and leader in consciousness and growth, and she's a counselor as well. And she taught this beautiful pattern of how to be able to do a U-turn when we find ourselves triggered. And so I teach you that, of course, with my special twists in there. And so that's available to you. There's a chakra and grounding balancing for the heart.
Yeah.
Because our heart is where these empathic wirings, if you had to put them in out of the nervous system and into an energetic system, the heart chakra, that's where they are. That's their hub. That's what they work with, right? And so often we disconnect from our heart and we become ungrounded because it doesn't feel safe to ground in. So in that healing meditation, you can like rinse and repeat. I have some people that were like, I worked with that meditation every morning for like 30 days, you know, to really help their system feel safe, grounding into themselves versus all the different nervous systems around them, right? So that meditation helps start the process of bringing you to yourself, to your heart, to your feet, to your ground, right? And so that one's in there. What else do I have in there? Oh,
archetypes, personas, and parts. That's a big one.
Is what I call them. Yeah. So you probably, if you've been on this journey, you've heard the word archetypal, you've heard the word personas, you've heard the word parts. In that one, I tell you, because again, we got to bring your mind with you, how each one's work and how they actually are very different things and how they work together, or how they work like magnets that are flipped about from each other, pushing each other in funky directions. And so we want to be able to work with those different tiers of us in a helpful way, and also be able to see them. And so I teach that in that one as well. And then one of my favorite things that I added in here as well that you have instant access to. So if you put it in the right order for me, it's the shamanic
fire ceremony and guided journey. Now that's not a bonus. It is such a precious, such a brilliant thing. It's not a bonus. It's a thing on its own, and it deserves all the attention and the honoring of it. So yeah, shamanic fire ceremony.
Yeah, and so that ceremony you can use with anything that is really taking you off balance, or wound, a thought pattern, a habit, something that's swaying heavily on you, and you're like, okay, I'm really ready to release this. I want support. I want to call forward the element of fire, the transmutation that is possible through that fire. And I want to liberate and transmute this from my system. I don't want it to just move it to a different part of it. I don't want to just do whatever. I want to work with it. I love when it's a one and done. Sometimes it's multiple, but this ceremony is probably one of the strongest ones that I have recorded. And that's why I felt like it was so strong to bring to here, because these are core wounds. These are really big burdens in our systems. And we have a lot of our own trauma just from the response of how this works, right? Like me getting all upset that day and being like, what? Why does this system exist this way? Right? I had to take that to a fire ceremony, put a little thing in and to work with that. Really interesting thing, Sophie. When I recorded this one, it was for a gathering that was coming forward. And when I got done recording it, I looked down at my feet and there was a starling, not in my energetic eyes, like a real starling had manifested itself. It let me pick it up. It sat in my hand. And because there's a part of the ceremony where I asked like the birds in the heavens to come in to help lift off stuff. It was sitting in my hand and I was like, holy tamale, that's a real bird. And so I took the bird outside and I was thinking there would be a huge, a huge pack of them. I think they're called, I don't remember what they're called when there's all of them. Like yeah. And he sat in my hand. It was beautiful. The gold flakes in him. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. Didn't fly away. There was no other starlings around. And then eventually, after like what felt like forever, he just flew off. And I could feel as he flew off, it was truly like transmuting, connecting in that heaven into that. And that's this recording. So it's a
that's something. Yeah, that tells a lot. That tells a lot. Yeah. So wow. Okay. So let me wrap it up. And what you have described so far, and everyone, you have on the special offer page, you have all the details. Go and read. It is so fascinating. So what you have described is option 2. Option 2 includes the 3 sacred wisdom teaching modules going side by side, going along with their 3 live group workshops, coaching, healing calls, right? 3 workshops accompanying, supporting, empowering, magnifying the 3 modules. You have the shamanic fire ceremony that Michelle just mentioned and evoked, and that's very, very intriguing. And you have the 4 bonuses. That's option 2. Now you also offer, Michelle, option 1, which is all of this plus what?
Plus a recorded personal mini reading on what your team would like to bring forward. Again, your system has evolved the way it has for an exquisite reason. And so I don't like to just get in there and start tearing things apart. I want to follow your system, right? I want to do what it wants to do, when it wants to do it, and how. And so in that reading, I sit remotely, so that means independently on my own, and I call in your wise one self and I ask, what is the first place that would be optimal for you to start with? What does your team want you to know that really is ensnaring and entangling your empathic wiring and why it's running the way it's running, so that we can open to another one? What I love about the way this particular one was guided, I was guided to do it in small batches. So I literally like sit with the roster of the people who signed up for the course, and I am guided to who to put in which group. And so what ends up happening, the power of the group, where more than 2 are gathered in the name of. So in the name of healing, in the name of liberation, and the name of freedom, that's what this course is really about, right? And reclaiming of worth. That group that you're guided to get your reading included in brings forward not only a flavor for you, but for somebody else. And that also is part of you. So it's like getting this true, full, huge, beautiful reading, because it's not only from your system, it's from somebody else's. And so what I've heard from the past participants is they're like, oh my gosh, Michelle, I still go back and listen to that, because I didn't even know that person was on that call, that recording that you read for. And I was guided to go back and listen to it again. And it said, just go to 23 minutes. And I went to 23 minutes and you were reading for this other person, and oh my God, that's exactly what was happening for me right then. And so it's like this built-in like time release reading that's available to you along. Plus, I do mini healings in it. So like if I feel guided to, I'll do a meditation or an invocation or a healing in that space. And so you get that, you have it available to you. It gets sent to you the second week of the course. So during module 2, and that's when you're getting into like the nitty gritty. Like this is where we're doing the healing work, the unburdening and the reclaiming, right? And so it's there to support you during that second week, available with you. I love this option because it keeps supporting you even after you're outside of the container.
Yeah, and that's totally genius. This way of organizing the readings, you doing them individually, but yet packaging them, bringing them together in those groups that are totally intuitively guided. So I feel that that's totally genius. So option 1 includes this personalized reading, intuitive reading, plus
Yes.
everything of option 2. And option 2 is the 3 modules with their 3 workshops, the fire ceremony, and the 4 bonuses. And with that, you're really offering, you're being so really incredibly generous with prices, Michelle, and I want to honor you for that. Option 1 is $144 for everything. You get everything for $144. Option 2 is $111, so $111. There's a 2 payment plan, even a 3 payment plan. So that's really, you are really stepping up, Michelle, in extending tremendous support to the empath. As you said, before the holiday season, let's have a happy holiday, or let's be empowered and enjoy our holiday season with having done, if only some of the work. Maybe we'll be on our way, but even just knowing that we're on our way to evolve or to revolve is so empowering. So I really, really very much appreciate and honor you for this generosity. One thing we want to say, we had this discussion, this is the last time, so it's a program you've offered already, so you know how brilliant it is. And it is the last time you offer it at this price, is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So I was guided to hold it. My original guidance was the next time I offered this program to have it increase a little bit to recognize the amount of time that comes into it. But I felt guided to leave it at my old pricing for this one as a gift, because we need this now. There are so many huge things, and we are in an evolution right now. And when we have to look at these old structures that have held us collectively, whether we agree with them or not, we all have synced ourselves to these structures. And as they are coming down, we are ahead of the curve, being asked to unplug and plug into the new structure that wants to come forward, right? You're brilliant. Truly, we are creating what possibilities of a different structure that can come in. And I felt really strong that right now, that whatever crew is going to be coming through here is that to hold them and to honor that, because they've been on the front lines and they need a safe container to heal, to rest, and then also rejuvenate themselves to come into the next one. And I did not want price to get in the way of that. So that's why we're keeping it this way, this one. But this is it. This is a graceful exclusive. And then the next time we'll go with the other one.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. This is, it tells to who you are. And also one thing I love is that how we can perceive how in this program and through this program, you really tap into the magnificence of your empathic self, like your ability, your ease of accessing to your guides, this guide, this and that, like you bring your own empath to the forefront to, to come and support others and the way showers of this evolution. So thank you so much. The way I perceive this, I've kind of subtitled, it's, to me, it's the ultimate empath thriving program. And so everyone, if you've been an empath in survival mode, or even barely surviving, or having to become such a hermit, pull yourself out of the ocean so that you can go through life. And if you feel like upgrading to empath successful mode, that's for you. And really, I so appreciate your invitation, your offering, and your generosity again, Michelle. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Well, I'm just excited. I can kind of feel already the group that's coming in, and it's going to be beautiful. And I can't wait to get in there and continue this orb of grace with everybody in this course. It's so needed, and I just want everyone who wants it to be able to access it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. So yes, gracefulconnections.com/Michelle2, simply scroll down the page, go and see all the details, yeah, it's an amazing package. Now, you've promised that we're going to experience, we've received so much from you already. Now it's time to relax into an experience, freedom in connection. So if there's anything you want to share about it, please do so. If you want to dive right in, up to you, Michelle. Thank you.
I think I'll just do a quick little thing for your mental being. First, please know that I don't push energy. I don't shove it. I don't force anybody's field to do anything that isn't optimal for it. And I 100% trust your beautiful, wise one self and team to guide this energy to whatever level is optimal for you to feel, to support, to maybe take a little peek at. Like, what could it feel like to be free in my connections, to not have shadow parts of me informing, shifting, shape-shifting, releasing, all those different ways. And we trust the beautiful wisdom of your wise oneself and team to guide this. So let's start there. What feels good to you, take a beautiful deep breath in. Out. Just feel your body on the surface that's holding you. Find maybe through your hands or your feet, just that sensation of touch. Maybe wiggle your fingers, stretch your hands, let them rest again, place them wherever it feels good to you. Right? And then through that beautiful orb of grace that Sophie called in earlier, we're going to piggyback off of that and invite it to really help us now, just really, if it's kind of gotten a little small, just reestablish itself to the fullness of your whole body being, all the way out to the edges of who you truly be. And officially calling in again your beautiful wise one self and team to help hold this boundary of you, and to also help guide these healing strands of grace and how it's supported for you. And my beautiful wise one self and team, they've already been here, but just thanking them, and Sophie's and Carrie's and all the Academy for their willingness to create this container to support us all. And just feel into that. There's you in your beautiful orb, being able to expand, to release any of those masks or like costumes or versions of yourself that don't really match who you are. Maybe you don't even know how that costume got in your closet in the first place. You're like, I don't even know where that part came from. Just let that kind of step aside right now. Even just imagine that your beautiful soul's guardian's like, here, give it to me. I'm going to coat check it for just a little bit. You can get it back if you need it. But for right now, just let us take that and let you feel what you feel like. Your light, your skin, your rhythm, your heart. Just really establish yourself in that, to however you can connect with that right now. It might be there an image, it might be a felt sense, it might be a word, it might be a color. Your beautiful soul self, mixing with you in this incarnation and your divine. Really feel that. It's beautiful, just as it is, whole, just as it is. Now, I'd love for your field to take a peek and realize it's in a container of connection with my beautiful wise one self in its own little orb, Sophie's in hers, and Carrie's, each and every one of you, the Academy, all of the different people, all held in their beautiful orb, their soul self. Maybe even if you notice, like if some part of you just kind of held your breath for a second or got a little tense when I just brought in the connections of others, see if it can trust that beautiful orb of grace that's surrounding you. There we go. And see if it can soften, maybe open its chest a little bit more. Soften into your sit bones a little bit more. Just feel seen by the beings of others. Safe in that being seen. And if it feels good to you, my heart is now offering you love, gratitude, support, healing. And see if any part of you is willing to accept that to whatever level feels good to you. Noticing that it's not trying to override anything or shift anything or ask anything of you. Just to hear, I want you to feel seen by me and loved and honored by me. And it's a gift. No strings, no exchange, no nothing. Just for you. Your beautiful self. And feel that. And again, if any part of you got a little nervous, like, oh my goodness, what do I have to do with this? Nothing. Let that soften, pass that fear, that worry to your beautiful soul's guardian. Just ask for an experience of what does this feel like to not only be seen, but to receive connection. Beautiful, attuned, loving connection. And now, is there any connection you would like to offer to this space? To me, to anyone else? Once again, from that place of no exchange necessary, gift of being seen and seen of the other, of receiving and giving. And that beautiful love of acceptance, gratitude, and connection. This is the freedom that comes as we evolve our pathways. This is the joy and the love and the laughter. Like I feel this bubbling of laughter. Like I want to start dancing in my little bubble. Like, hey, what's up? You know, I want to hold some that are probably just feeling this great loss of, oh, I missed this. I want that. And here it is, and it's available, and it's here. I want to be there for each and every one of you, just as you are. And also be here for myself, just as I am. This is freedom and connection. This is the goal. This is our blueprint. We are designed this way. This is not a myth. This is not something we have to bring and build. This is something we get to remember because it was already in you. I just helped make space for it. A nice deep breath in and out. And oh, I mean, we can stay in this beautiful connection, and it can stay there. But for right now, call your energy back to you. Calling all my energy back to me. Honoring each other in beautiful love and gratitude, and knowing that immense amount of healing has happened in just that small moment. This is in you. Your soul's remembered it, it found it. And we want to help it continue to grow. And I trust that your field will know the best container to help it do that. So it is. Amen, amen, amen.
So it is. Yeah, wow. Thank you so much. That was just so magnificent. Yeah, I want to comment on two things in particular. One is that, well, while paying attention to my own experience, I still have my kind of my sensors out into the audience, and I loved how I could perceive when you brought the feeling how it is to be you. There was such an excitement of the hearts that I could feel from the audience. And then I was shown this image of, or this scene of, you know, at school when the bell rings for recess, and there's this excitement of let's go out and play. And it was this, I could perceive this same nature of excitement of the hearts at this notion of what it feels and how it feels to be you. So that was very, very beautiful to perceive this excitement. And the other thing that was very remarkable for me is to witness the care that you take, as you did right from the beginning, to pacing ourselves, and the care that you take in every aspect to make this experience just like we can only imagine and suppose, like every experience that you offer, every guided journey that you lead, every teaching that you bring, you take such a care to make it safe and to make it perfect for, even though you offer it to a group, the delivery somehow is personalized in the way that is perfect for each of us. And I really, that's, and now I get chills while saying this is true. This is really masterful of you, and I really wanted to bring this forward, bring this up.
Thank you. That is my intention. That is my intention, for it to be deeply personal, personal, deeply held.
Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. So everyone, I'm sure you really everyone delighted in this experience. And it's a taste of, thank you for giving us a taste of, well, how life can be, because that's how life is meant to be, right? So before giving you the closing word, Michelle, I'd like to wrap up inviting everyone, again, gracefulconnections.com/Michelle2, or simply scroll down the page, get all the details about evolving the empath. You have the full package with the personalized intuitive reading and everything of option 2. So option 1 is the personalized reading plus everything of option 2, and option 2 is the 3 modules with their 3 live workshops supporting the modules, the fire ceremony, and the 4 bonuses. And again, incredibly generously priced for the last time ever, and you have 2 option plan, even now 3 option plan. So before I give you the last word, Michelle, I want to remind everyone that we're meeting again on Friday, October 27th at 9 a.m. Pacific for an intuitive readings galore live call. And Michelle will answer your question: what belief system is impacting my divine empathic wiring? So we're going to get personal as well, and that's going to be very revealing. So make sure to join us. If you can't attend the live call, make sure to request your reading in advance and then catch up with the replay to receive Michelle's insights and wisdom. And you will also have the link in the video description. Now, Michelle, is there any word of closing that you would like to offer?
Yeah, I just really want to offer that this is a gift. Like, our intuitive and empathic nature is a beautiful gift. And I don't know if any of you noticed, but I was moved by the what I could feel happening in that orb. And then even just Sophie witnessing, you know, the journey that I have been on and that I have created, and she could feel my intention. And that even brings beautiful tears to the back of my eyes right now. And this is a gift. These are not something that we need to apologize for, to hide, to like back up. Like, no, this is strength right here. This is what I want to help offer and to help allow every field to have, to say, you know, even in this moment, with these beautiful tears of gratitude, of love, of compassion, of witnessing some of the pain that I also felt of in there, you know, like of honoring that it is a sense of strength and a beauty. And it's a part of allowing ourselves to be holistic, right? It's not about taking out the emotional being. It's about befriending it and bringing it into alignment with us. And then befriending our heart, our soul, our mind, and bringing them into a new hub within us. Because they're all beautiful and they all have a purpose. We just have to help them remember it. Right. And that's what I love to do. And this course does it. And I love this course. And I'm so grateful to offer it. And I'm so grateful to you, Miss Sophie, and to all of the Graceful Connections in the Academy for bringing this together. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yes, I did wipe some tears as well, to be honest. Yes. So, yeah, very beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle. Now, everyone, let's take a moment to be present once again to the orb of grace. And allowing it to remain there and to hold us, to hold all that we have received today, all that we're not even aware that we have received, allowing it to settle in, to be absorbed. Orb of grace holding us for as long as it serves our highest good, our evolution, and the highest good of all. Yes, thank you. And I'm closing now by giving gratitude to each and every one of you in the audience. Thank you for answering yes to the calling of grace and to the calling of your empathic self to thrive, to come forward, to expand, to become the beautiful self that it was born to be. And gratitude to you, wonderful Michelle Holling-Brooks. I want to subtitle you way shower to the empathic way showers. I think you can be crowned the way shower to the way showers, to the empathic way showers. Thank you so much for all the wisdom, the brilliance, the joy, and all the offerings that you have gifted us today, to all the graceful connections that have been woven with you and with your masterful expertise. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Infinite gratitude for you. Much gratitude for Christel Hughes and the Academy for the Soul, offering this platform in which graceful connections expand and grow, impacting our lives, our environment, and the world at large, creating heaven on earth. Yes. Gratitude to the Orb of Grace, providing a safe, sacred space for this journey of exploration. And gratitude for all the grace that we are blessed with at every moment, whether we are aware of it or not. It offers all the nourishment, the nurturing, the healing, the revelations, the realizations that we open our hearts to receive all along this journey. Gratitude to our higher selves and all the higher beings that guide, support, and protect us. And gratitude to the divine. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, everyone. Until we meet again, many graceful blessings to you all. And goodbye for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.